Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, JoshuaJHolland, and yes, I have some new shades on. We'll talk about that in another episode. But today I have a very fascinating episode, and the guest I have on today's show is Anastasia. And Anastasia is with the company called Gravity Mind, and they do nail boards. And if you've been in my orbit in the last few months, you may have seen me standing on these nails, or you may have heard me talking about it. And so we're going to dive into all of that on this episode. It's going to be really exciting. And you may even get a little treat if you're watching the show. You may even get a chance to see me stand on the nail boards. So Gravity Mind is a small family business in Los Angeles that handcrafts nail boards for meditation and recovery. Nail boards are yogic devices that originated in India over 2,000 years ago, also known as bed of nails or Sadhu boards. Standing on nail boards helps to relieve tension, to improve blood circulation, and to release endorphins, which are the natural feel-good hormones that help to eliminate pain. Nail boards are also an excellent tool for the mind, training the brain to stay calm in any storm of life and to release emotional blockages, very similar to an ice bath. Anastasia and Dimitri have been practicing yoga and meditation for over 10 years. Anastasia is a creative producer and designer, and Dimitri is a passionate woodworker, and he has also studied Western and Chinese medicine before uniting both in his own offering at Gravity Mind. So, Anastasia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joshua. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, of course. So I've been excited to get you on the show because we've chatted back and forth, and when I first saw that you guys were producing this, it was done in the way that I appreciate crafting of materials, right? So a good quality wood and, good quality materials, the metals and things like that. And when I saw the boards, I finally decided to go ahead and pull the trigger and buy some. And I actually did it while I was on tour. And a few of the people that were around me, they were like, Josh, what is that you're standing on? Or why are you doing this? And I was like, you know what, let me go straight to the source and talk about that, because I know that you guys created this for a reason. And here we are. So let's kind of start there. Let's start with your background, and let's kind of get to the point of like why you even created this company and why you started doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so Dimitri has visited his relatives in Eastern Europe about 3 years ago, and that's where he first experienced nail boards himself at the ecstatic dance. And he was very, very impressed and felt immediate effect on his body and mind state and amount of energy he had. So he was very impressed. And so when he came back here to Los Angeles, he goes, Anastasia, oh my God, you have to try it. It's like this, the most amazing thing. And I was like, okay, where? And we quickly realized that there are no nail boards available in the United States at the moment. And first we ordered some nail boards from Russia, I think, some makers. But when they arrived, it was not quite to our personal standards to the quality or materials, because if I'm going to use something for meditation or for acupressure and for my body, I prefer it to be as clean as possible, especially if it's supposed to, give me energy boost or clear my mind. I prefer personally not to have plastic deep into my skin or toxic materials involved in that. So the quality wasn't up to our liking. And experience with it, we thought could be better. And Dimitri also happens to be amazing woodworker. He's professionally done it for many years while being at college and being younger. So he goes like, I think I can make it. So first, originally, he made the first pair of nail boards for me to try and for us to practice at home, but it was very, very basic version, nothing what it looks like right now, but it got the point across. And actually, my first time standing on nail boards was 10 seconds with 2 socks on. So I just want to calm a lot of people that think like, oh my god, those are probably special people who practice it or who make it. They are advanced or special or different in some way. I would say not at all, because in my own example of trying it for the first time, I couldn't even do 10 seconds, and I wore 2 socks because I was very sensitive. I was overly reactive to everything, to physical sensations, to any stressful situation. So I couldn't handle any type of stimulation. So, but over time, now I've been practicing for over 3 years, and now I can do pretty much any amount of time. Like the most I have practiced is like 30 minutes barefoot. So it shows you that you can build up, and that's our whole idea with the nail boards. It's not everything or nothing, or you either can do it or you cannot. The point that you can develop your stamina over time. And I felt it and saw it on my personal example, because I started with like being super extra sensitive in every possible way. And over time, I developed physical resilience, but also I see how it influenced my mental stamina as well, how I can be less reactive to stress and emotions, and a little bit control and awareness of how I choose to react to things, not only to nail boards, but anything in the world, like news that are pretty intense right now, or work stress or anything like that. So that's the origin of a story why we started it, because originally Dimitri just was really impressed for himself. He wanted me to try it. We wanted to have a board for ourselves that was only natural materials, and we couldn't find anything on the global market, and also there was none in the United States. And he kept improving the board that we had, and like keep buying the more and more advanced tools to make it really good. And at some point, after developing for like almost 2 years, we realized that like that's pretty advanced for being like a home hobby, like where he had like too many advanced expensive tools, and the board was becoming advanced as well. Like, so by now it's foldable, it's dynamic, so each board has a cushion inside, so each nails, they moving up and down, and there is an engraving, there is a stone installed into that. So it became pretty complex and beautiful thing in our opinion. So we decided to share it with the world. So 1 year ago, we launched the company officially with a website and social media and everything, and decided to go full on sharing this. So, but it wasn't originally an intention like, okay, like 3 years ago, like we started a company. It was more like curious exploration. We discovered this interesting tool, and then we realized that there is certain responsibility comes that when you know and can make the tool that is so impactful and immediately effective, then you have certain responsibility to share it in a way that nobody else in the United States had it, and we did, and we had capacity to produce it. I happened to be designer, creative producer, and Dimitri happens to be well versed in like biohacking and health and woodworking. So it's like very interesting combination of us being a couple and having all these skills, so that we were able to make it possible. So we felt like, I still feel like that we have to keep going and we have to share what helped us and what we feel is impactful and helpful through this modern digital life that is very static, very stationary, very overloading with information sometimes, something that brings you back to your body, where I feel like it's the main way to control the mind is to come back to your body, to feel your breath, and kind of disconnect a little bit from the flow of information or thoughts. And that's the best way I found to ground in this very digital work that I do, because all my work is digital, beside like workshops that we do. And like life in general, like even now we're using internet as a wonderful tool, but all of it is like digital and stationary. So I feel like any tools that help us move and feel the body and reconnect to our energy flow, to our breath, that is wonderful.
Thank you for that. It's very beautiful. And like, you know, one of the first questions that comes to my mind is, do you still have the original prototype that was used? Do you still have that around?
We do, but it's not in our house where I'm working remotely from, but it's in a studio, because Dimitri has a woodworking studio where he creates all the nail boards. So I think like recently when I was visiting the studio, I still saw it on the shelf somewhere. I think it's still there.
So
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I mean, it is really fascinating because, again, you know, one of the things I have explained when talking to people about it with my, I would say, compared to you guys, my limited knowledge about nail boards is, so I'm a martial artist. And when I was very young, I was introduced to this idea of using nail boards. And at a very young age, I basically, we would do these competitions, right? And so you can do fighting, you can do forms, you can do what we call breaking, which is like, you know, breaking boards, breaking bricks. And part of my performance, if you will, was I would break boards and I would break bricks with my hands or my feet. And sometimes we would light the boards on fire to show like, oh, this is cool. And like the audience would always see like all of these really cool things. But there was a point in time in which my grandmaster introduced nail boards to my family. And
Wow.
and we got to a point, and I was like 7 or 8 years old. And one of the things that we were encouraged to do at that time is to make our own nail boards so that you have the respect and the understanding of what it can do. And of course, you know, at age 7 or 8, like there was not a lot of understanding, but I did respect the idea that you have to be very focused when you do anything like this, because, you know, we would toss an apple at it, very gently toss an apple at it, and it would stick. And then you'd pull off the apple, and then I would take off my uniform top, lay on the bed of nails, and then my father, who was my sensei, he would lie like 2 or 3 cinder blocks on my stomach and my chest, my torso. And then he would smash those bricks with a sledgehammer while I'm laying on the bed of nails. And anyone watching that thought, oh my goodness, this guy is like not human. And how can he do that? And of course I would stand up, I would show my back to the audience and to the judges and show that it didn't pierce the skin, but it did, you know, have all these little holes in my back, and it would be very red.
Maybe not holes, but like marks. So like
marks.
It
Yeah,
doesn't,
exactly.
it doesn't
Exactly.
pierce through. That's the point. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always felt was this sort of warming, or I don't want to call it burning sensation, but it was definitely like a heat sensation. And I now understand that as being one of the components to improving circulation, which is what we talked about in the intro. So let's maybe talk about that, because it's, you know, I didn't have very good of an understanding then, but I do now. But for those who are listening or watching, let's maybe talk about what that even means, and how can this sort of device get you to where you are today in terms of like understanding your body and helping with movement and things like that.
Thank you for your story. That's wonderful. I love when people, especially in the United States, had some sort of experience or knowledge about it, because it's fairly new or unique one, unknown for United States. But I would feel like in like maybe Europe or Asian cultures, or Pakistan, India, when we meet people from those places, they've seen it, they very familiar with it, or even if they didn't, they immediately understand how it works because they had similar practices in their culture, like acupressure, acupuncture, reflexology, so they kind of like can understand. But in the United States, it's fairly new, and in general, I would say nail boards kind of requires a little bit of explanation to pacify the mind, to understand how it works, that why is it safe and how is it safe. But basically your story illustrates very well this kind of interesting idea that, like, yeah, the apple will stick, basically pierce through, but then a human body didn't. So it feels or looks like you're a special, or especially like magical human being, or like achieve some level of mastery in order to do that. But actually, in every magical occasion that we see, there is certain level of knowledge that explains it, and then by using that knowledge you are able to replicate it. So with nail boards, there is a law in physics actually that when the weight is distributing evenly among many points that are on the same distance among each other and at the same height, so the nails must be same height, identical, and same distance between each nail and their neighboring nails. So when the weight is distributed evenly among many points, it will never puncture the surface. So that's why, for example, when you lay on the bed of nails, or when we stand on the nail boards with our feet, it doesn't puncture the skin. And even when your father put the bricks on your chest while you were laying on a bed of nails and smashed those bricks, so not only you're not punctured by the nails, but you're not hurt by the bricks, because part of the force that comes from the hammer to the brick through your body and then distributes again through all the points on the bed of nails, so they kind of take the shock. Your body becomes kind of conduit. If you would were laying on the floor and they would smash the bricks on you, I don't know what the result would be, because there would be not much to kind of take that shock away. But basically that shock wave from the hammer goes through the brick, through your body, and then into many points of a nail board, so it kind of distributes it and still doesn't puncture through. Versus the apple, for example, first of all, it's round, it's thrown with a force, so the weight of the whole apple is not distributed evenly among enough points. It hits and sticks usually to like 1, 2, 3 points that kind of in contact with the round surface. So here you don't have many points to distribute the weight, any weight of apple or body or anything. So that's when it punctures through. Similarly with the bed of nails or with the nail boards, if you would jump with your one toe on the nail board and put all of your weight on the one toe, or just jump on the heel on the nail board, it's not a good idea. So that's why we do talk and describe the safety measures with the nail boards, like no jumping on and off, placing their foot in the middle of a board with foot widely spread. So simple measures, but like if you treat it with care and certain knowledge that putting all the pressure on one point, like a heel or a toe, would puncture your skin, and therefore that's not safe, and also that's not how you use bed of nails or the board. Yeah, so but that's not something you immediately know, or it's not
Right.
immediately obvious if you haven't studied or haven't heard about that law of physics in your high school, even though some people now also tell us that now they study in some colleges or high schools, they have a class even about it with bed of nails, and they explain them this law of physics of distribution of energy and the weight, so they kind of like have a little bit of understanding, but that's not something very obvious. So when even I saw like pictures of people on a bed of nails like sitting or laying down, I also had perception of them being like very special or enlightened,
Mm.
or mastering like gravity or their body, or those kind of things. You have to have certain control of your response. So I'm not saying like laying on the bricks in your case, even with your father smashing the bricks on your chest, that it's something easy. This is something you also have to a little bit prepare yourself, like where like control your breathing, and
Hmm.
your reaction. For the most part, you don't need to control puncturing of your skin. That will not happen. But I also don't suggest that it was like easy, or for anyone like without preparation or experience to lay down the experience, they still might have like different reaction, or like palpitating, panicking breath, which wouldn't be good. And with the nail boards, the same. I'm not saying it's super easy. You have to really jump into your body and connect with your breath, and then you are able to overcome the pain threshold. So in 3 to 5 minutes on nail boards, all the pain disappears and the body becomes very relaxed. The mind stops, the mind chatter becomes very calm and clear, and it can be even euphoric experience from endorphins. But that happens through control of your breath, first of all,
Mm.
because breath then controls the nervous system and responds to stimuli, in this case the pressure of the nails. But we also compare it to very similar process of ice bath, where the stimuli is the cold. It's so cold that it's painful. If you ever tried ice bath, or at least a cold shower, um, so it's cold till the painful sensation. But using the breath, you then can stop feeling cold, and you actually feel warm or neutral, and
Hmm.
often euphoric in the ice bath. So similar with nail boards, but through pressure.
Well said. Yeah, and it's something else that I would like to offer, and of course you can touch on this if you need to. Um, it's like everything you just mentioned is so true in that even if you do understand that your skin won't be punctured, there's still this idea of focus just to enter into it, right? And I like to be so aware of my feelings to the point that like I want to kind of hack, or I want to understand why I might have a certain response to a stimulus, right? And a lot of times, I prepare my mind before I step onto the board, and like using the suggestions you have on the website, which I'll pull up here in a moment. I would put my hands onto the back of a chair or onto the wall, and then I would step onto it, and just entering into it almost I can visualize stepping into a dojo, or stepping into a sacred space, one that is created such that I can fully relax into it. And like you said, of course, you're thinking about the burning sensation or the warming sensation. You're thinking about the pressure of the nails, but then at some point it goes away, and the practice gets longer and longer and longer if you're consistent with it, to the point where it almost becomes addictive. Like I love to do it. I like to stand on it. Like in fact, there was one point where I did a podcast almost completely for over an hour standing on the nail boards.
Wow.
And yeah, and of course when I do it that long, it's a little easier for me to do it with socks. And but I like to do it barefoot because the sensation is greater, and I have this sense of accomplishment. Like if I happen to be looking at the clock, I don't watch it the whole time, but I might give myself a timer of 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I've been able to build up to 10 minutes barefoot, and that's no easy feat. But the feeling I have afterwards, it's almost like I can feel circulation happening throughout my feet. And if I wear them with toe spacers, not only am I getting that newfound circulation, but I'm also making sure my feet are properly spread, like you mentioned. And so there's a lot of things happening beyond just this cool trick of standing on nails. It's like there's so many physiological benefits,
Mm-hmm.
but also the psychological benefit is immense. It's immense. I love it.
Yeah. I think like the psychological aspect is just the most like famous or attractive, because people are seeking for the ways to, relieve the stress or to be resilient to stress, because the times we live in is just happens to be a bit trying in the past several years. But I don't want to discount the physical benefits as well, because the way nail boards work is on the same principles of acupressure or reflexology, which is originated in traditional Chinese medicine. By pressing certain points on the body or on the feet, you can affect the entire body. And our palms and the soles of our feet have the most of pressure points and nerve endings that connect to the body. So by stimulating those, we can activate the entire body. So there is a big aspect of a physical aspect for the like beneficial for the body. Like, first of all, yes, it's a circulation that it improves and increases circulation in the body, lymph circulation, and then that pressure on the body triggers release of endorphins, which is feel-good hormones. They also natural painkillers in the body, and they also can boost the mood even. So because the body thinks that there is cut or like injury, because it senses the stimula, so it sends all the endorphins to repair the injury that doesn't exist. So all of that healing mechanisms triggered, and if there is any inflammation anywhere else in the body, so for example it can be like a shoulder or lower back, standing on the nail board still can help to heal that, because of that healing processes activated, even though you're not laying on your back, you're standing with your feet. So the endorphin rush like feels also really good, and can be even euphoric because of this mood boosting property that it has. And also I think it's good to mention that like with all these physical benefits, it's good to mention that the practice of nail boards is not advised for people who have currently menstrual cycle or pregnant, because of the blood circulation that is increased and intense stimulation that is not necessary at those times, because they're perfectly designed already. But also for people who have any wounds on the body, especially on the feet, like cuts or just healing wounds or any surgeries, things like that, or healing tattoos even, because again the blood pressure will be stronger and you don't want that during the healing process. And any acute diseases or healing, because the body needs like rest and doesn't need additional stimulation, because it is intense practice, but it also has intense benefits, like immediate benefits that you can feel. And when you go, for example, to reflexology salons where it's basically foot massage, but it's also pretty intense and very deep, it can be experienced as painful as well. That is also directed on mainly like the physical relaxation, so you can kind of compare that to reflexology massage in a way. And the whole body after the practice should feel relaxed. Sensation would last like for at least 10 minutes after standing on nail boards. So when you get off the nail boards, the feet will be sensitive for at least 10 minutes. If you practice for 10-15 minutes on, then maybe about 10 minutes after the feet will be sensitive. But after that, you should feel like very good foot massage, and the whole body should be a bit more relaxed as well.
Thank you. Yeah. And I love how you mentioned acupressure as opposed to acupuncture, because obviously we understand the difference. Most people should understand the difference. But, acupressure is something that is a big part of Eastern philosophy. And it's something that is a huge part of the martial arts practice I started with when I was very young. So it made sense that I was doing something with nail boards early on. So now that we are almost 30 minutes into this, we do what I call a Pomodoro break. And in my hands here, I have the beautifully designed nail board. Here, first of all, it's very robust. And you see you've got the Gravity Mind logo. And then here, this is the stone that Anastasia was talking about. And I love the design here. So, thanks to Dimitri and his design of the wood, it's amazing. And I'm going to open this up. Voila. And there you go. So if you're watching this, you get a chance to see just how beautiful this piece of tech is. I mean, it's amazing. And we've got copper nails, and like you said, it's foldable, and they go one into the other like so, and you can travel with it. Like I traveled with it. It is quite heavy, which is good because it's very robust. But let's talk about, because I know before we started recording, we talked about doing a Pomodoro break and utilizing the nail board. So what would you offer for one to do in terms of a Pomodoro break?
Yeah, since the break will be a bit shorter than 10-15 minutes of regular practice on nail boards, that you can read more on our website, how it's done and what it is, like the instructions are on our website. But when you have like shorter time, like we're going to do just a couple minutes, you can still connect to your breath and do more like acupressure massage on the nail boards, where you don't stand still the whole time, but we will be shifting our weight. So stepping on one foot, raising the other, so kind of like walking in one place, and we're still going to be using the breath. So for whoever is watching, if you don't have nail boards, if you see this for the first time here now, you can still do the breath, because we're going to do the breath that we are using on the nail board. So we're using form of Ujjayi breath, which is breath from yoga. It translates like victorious, or breath, or sounds like ocean breath, where you inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And imagine like you're fogging up the mirror with your exhale. So exhale should be loud ha sound. Inhale. And it's important that exhale must be longer than inhale to calm the nervous system and relax your body. Inhale. And imagine on the exhale, releasing all the tension from a body.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So you can either stand as Joshua standing without moving, or another way is to like walk in one place. So like shifting one foot, the other. And you can use support of a table or a chair, or if you're wearing socks. So it's lighter, I would say, especially in socks, or if you use support, so where you don't sink into the nail boards much, so it's more like a massage. But if you stand still, that's how we usually use the nail boards, and that's what the meditation is like, because the nail boards press deeper into the skin, then sensation slowly rising into the body, and then you use your long exhales to release all the tension. So the inhale is always shorter, and exhale is long as possible.
What's really interesting about this, by the way, if you're watching, first of all, you may notice a couple of things. One, I am standing on the nail board, so you can see my height has changed. Right. So I'm a little bit higher up, and almost immediately, once I started standing on these nail boards, my glasses start to fog up, because the temperature in my body has increased. And I think that's really cool, because there is a physiological effect that is very evident, like right away. And it's almost like everything is heightened, right? Like I'm listening to you, I'm trying to practice. And obviously, since I'm doing a podcast, it's harder to focus on, completely meditating while doing this. So I'm going to step off of these now, and I'm going to make sure, this is important, I'm going to make sure to close these up before putting them away because I don't want to just accidentally step on these, right? So I know that's important. But also, you may have noticed, again, if you have the luxury of watching this video, you'll notice that I shared the website. So I'll do that again while my glasses cool off and my body temperature goes back to normal. But I'm going to share the website again because it's beautifully done. And Anastasia talked about the instructions that are here. And I think this is important. So I'm at gravity-mind.com. And this is the website. So, when you first go to the website, it's very beautiful. You see that there's people standing on the nail boards with or without socks. You see that there's a lot of instruction about having a meditative practice. You even see someone sitting cross-legged on the floor, putting their hands on the nail boards. So obviously this is not just for the feet. It can be for the hands. And then I'm going over to the instructions. And that's where you see that it says pain is unavoidable, suffering is optional. I love that. And so I think that's very evident when having a nail board practice. And so here we go. It says safety. It goes over some of the tips. It has a lot of the instructions on ways to ramp this up and to kind of ease into the practice. And then we have down here, we are here for you if you need personal guidance, which is great. And then of course you can go in and at the end of this and in the show notes, I'm going to provide the links on the ways to get this and even include the discount code that Anastasia and Dimitri have offered for the guest of this show. We'll talk about that at the very, very end. But I think it's all very well done. And I think you guys are really onto something, especially with this being a family business that started basically because you wanted to create something that was a lot better. Well done. Kudos to you guys. Very cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Now I do think it's worth mentioning when I cover topics like this, various devices or methods or protocols, one of the first things people do is they go to Amazon and they try to find a cheaper alternative, right? And, throughout the past, ever since my laying on nail boards, I know there was this prevalence of lying on, I know one of the main companies was called Spunk, and they made these mats with these little plastic, it kind of reminds me of like plastic forks that are bent up to a certain height and they're round and there's a bunch of them and you can lay on them. And while those are cool, I am very similar to you, Anastasia, in that I wanted to find a better option because, again, I didn't want plastics. I try to be as eco-friendly as possible. And also, I don't want to introduce any more toxins in the body than is necessary. And so that's what led me to Gravity Mind, is because I saw the wood is an amazing wood. What kind of wood is used in this?
So we use 3 types of wood at the moment, and they all like hard wood and high quality wood. So one is walnut, the dark one, and the one you have is bamboo, which is more resilient to moisture. Because hardwood, it can shift the shape. And we also added maple, which is very light in color, but it's all natural, very, very sturdy, and it's actual real wood. It's not dust of wood that was glued to be, a board again. So speaking of cheaper versions, there are cheaper versions on the market, but those are pretty much never made from wood. Even if they look like it, it's either MDF or where it's like basically pieces of wood glued together, or dust of wood glued together. So it's a lot of toxic glue that I personally don't want to invest or participate in spreading this kind of stuff. So this is natural wood, and we also even finish the wood with non-toxic plant oils instead of like petroleum based, or instead of toxic based finish. And the main difference as well in the price comes mainly from nails, not even from wood, because we use 100% copper nails at the moment, and those are the most expensive nails on the market. They're like 5 to 10 times more expensive than the metal one. And a lot of cheaper boards that you can find, they usually regular metal, like silver color nails that also can rust over time. And if they do, you should just know that rust is extremely dangerous in contact with skin. The rust should never come in contact with skin because it can easily introduce infection, even through a micro scratch. So like some people also came to us after having a cheap board with like regular nails that rusted over time, and they just didn't want to put themselves in danger, and then realized that copper is by far safer option, because copper is a metal, doesn't rust at all. It can tarnish, can get darker with time, especially if it's exposed to like humidity or anything. So we advise not to store or expose it to any humidity or water, or leave it open for prolonged periods of time. So, but otherwise, copper also antibacterial metal, so it sanitizes itself. So especially if you use it for yourself, you don't need to sanitize it. Even if you share with like your closed ones, it's also antibacterial on its own. But if you share with like strangers, that's why we also advise using like socks and things like that. It reduces sensations by 30%, but also adds that layer of like private practice and things like that. But that's the reason we use copper nails, and copper is one of the essential metals in the body. So a lot of people like to use like copper, even glasses, or to drink from, and because of the healing properties of copper. So whenever it comes in contact with the body, it's antibacterial, and also like introduces micro elements to the body that is essential for it. So that's the reason we use copper. And in many ways, it's really, really harder and more challenging for us to produce things this way, and they're all handmade. So also another thing in the price is that the cheap boards are manufactured most likely in the third world countries, and with unknown safety and trade, kind of the way people who make it treat it. And also it's fabricated in factories usually. Our boards are all handcrafted. So each board is handcrafted in Los Angeles by us. So we control the quality of each board, and each board is very, very natural and clean, and no toxins introduced to it. So that's what makes up the price. And yeah, it's especially for people who look for quality, look for eco-friendly ways to, get tools that they need. And also for longevity. So those boards that are cheaper also not gonna last long, either because of the nails or because of the quality of the wood. These boards will last a lifetime, and maybe even longer than that. And I guess like last difference is like these boards are dynamic. So each board has a cushion inside the board, so all the nails go up and down, and we use high quality industrial rubber that will never deform. And most of cheap boards either non-dynamic, meaning they static, so when you step on it they don't move, they are as they are. Or some other dynamic boards, they use very, very cheap plastic foam inside that will deform in about 6 months to 12 months. So that's another reason why this board is heavier and a little bit more expensive than others, just because we were making it for ourselves and we didn't want anything but good, natural, clean, and best possible. So we are making each board as we are making it for ourselves. So that's are the choices, but they come at a price, and honestly at a price to a business as well. It would be by far more profitable for us to do it conventional, quote unquote, way, which I don't think is a way anymore, to like just manufacture in some far country where people are treated in a certain way to make it so cheap. So those are the choices. And as a maker and somebody with meditative product and meditative practice, I just cannot make those type of choices anymore, because I do have the awareness of the consequences on my body and then on the planet that I live on, and I want other people to live on. So
Thank you for that. And I can certainly vouch for the quality of it. This is why for me it was a no-brainer. And again, I'm one that am fortunate enough to be able to spend money on things that I think is good, or that's going to be good for me, and it makes sense for me. But something else that, and I know we need to be sensitive of time, but something else I want to show that I also have from you guys is this. I don't even know if you knew I had this.
oh, yes, yes, yes. So this is Acupressure Mat. That is pretty new addition to our website. So this is flexible medical rubber, and it has 5 type of metal spikes on it. It's silver, copper, zinc, nickel, and iron. So all the metals that our body has. So it's also conductive metals. So this is better for the back, actually, because it can follow the shape of your back, especially if you lay on a sofa or bed. And it's really amazing to relieve any tension or especially pain from the back. And again, speaking about all their plastic acupressure mats, which we also had like years before we started Gravity Mind. Again, it's alternative for people who don't want plastic skin deep into their body, or want, because plastic is okay, you know, it works in terms of like the effects. It still increases the blood circulation and release the tension, but it's mostly only massage, I would say. And also for the acupressure mat with the metal spikes, that also has healing properties of the metals. So they are conductive, help to release the static energy from a body that we collect from electronic devices that surround our life. Plastic kind of can increase it in the opposite. And just the skin contact with the essential metals that our body has helps to increase healing properties, like getting micro elements of the same metals into the body through the skin, because our skin is highly absorbent. And by the way, that mat we do not produce ourselves. We are partnering with the company in Ukraine who works in the wartime. So anyone who, and you yourself, George, by like just purchasing those mats, you basically also supporting the whole company, all their workers, so they can continue working, and like country's economy. So just like this indirect influence by purchasing power. But actually we chose them not only because, you know, they work in Ukraine, but because it's the only acupressure mat in the world that does not use plastic. And as you see from our own nail boards, it's kind of a strong priority for us. So when we saw it, we instantly connected to it, that they also like toxin free, plastic free, and they are, I think, over 30 years on the market, and Ukrainian FDA approves and recommends it. So like equivalent of FDA in Ukraine, they advise and approve it. So all hospitals have it, all the recovery centers and things like that. So it has like very strong history, very strong testing and following, and we respect that a lot, and is the only option. So and a lot of people ask us like, oh, this is for the feet, but like, can we use it for the back, the nail boards? And you technically kind of could, is the way you were describing, like in your childhood laying on a bed of nails, but it wouldn't be quite as comfortable or convenient. And we also don't cannot vouch for safety of using that, because you laying with your back, you don't see what you're doing. You definitely have to avoid your spine if you do that way, because some people tried it and it was okay, but you have to do it at your own risk, because this is not what is it designed for, the nail boards that we make for the feet. So after people asked us many times, like, oh, like bed of nails is like you can lay on it, so is there something like this? We decided to partner with this company in Ukraine and distribute their amazing product here, because we really we love it for ourselves, and we love to share with others what we found through entire life. And I saw it since my childhood, so it definitely has very long history, because I'm from Belarus and my father is Ukrainian, so I'm very close to that culture. And one more product that we have on the website is those meditation bells. That is another object that we do not produce, but we partner with a company in Japan. So this is bells that made in one city in the world that has 400 years of Buddhist metal arts. So that city and those craftsmen were passing down their craft for 400 years of creating different bells. And I see them as part of like history, culture, sound healing, but also extremely beautiful and exquisite art. They also handmade, which is mind blowing to me. And we kind of only participate or collaborate with companies that have similar values, so like craftsmanship, non-toxic, sustainable, history that it relies on some sort of tradition or culture. And that's why there is not a lot of products on our website. We make handcraft only nail boards. Just want to highlight that again. But when we partner or we choose the companies, is like you can see kind of the connection thread that is always craft, tradition, and something very unique that is not widely spread in United States. So like those bells I never saw anywhere in the world. For example, that mat is the only mat in the world that doesn't have plastic. So that's how we choose people who we collaborate with. But it's mainly we want to share things that are so valuable that we found that we want to share, because we're only distributors. So there is only that much, we get from that. But I think those things are worth sharing. So that's why we do that.
And that's why we're here. So thank you for that. And I couldn't help but decide to jump on the opportunity to get a couple of those. I actually have 2 of the Acumats. So it looks like the only thing I don't have from your site is the bells. So maybe I have to get that in the future. But let's wrap up, because I know you have a schedule, and I don't want to keep you. This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I would love to have you back, and maybe we do this again. So the last 2 questions I usually ask on the show is, what is your top 2 pet peeves? What are a couple of things that kind of get under your skin, that kind of annoy you?
Yeah, so one is totally my responsibility, but still triggers me a lot, is anytime I catch myself stuck on Instagram or being like distracted by Instagram. By any means, I think Instagram, as well as internet, is a wonderful tool that with discipline can be used for creating like essential communication and connection between human beings. But I also find it fairly addictive. I have to confess myself that it's very addictive to myself, and sometimes it's really hard to control. So anytime I catch myself being distracted, like I was supposed to do one thing, but I find myself like out of nowhere doing something else or spending more time there, that really triggers me. But that's where also awareness, like through breath work or with nail boards, really helps, or any mindfulness practice, actually, like yoga, being in nature, walking barefoot, or breath work or meditation, just anything that increases the level and chances for you to catch yourself sooner. Like 15 minutes later, not an hour later. So that's the way I combat what triggers me. But it's really like my modern challenge, because I'm quite good about most of the things, but this is still sometimes get out of my control, because I design most of the things, I do most of the communication. So it's part of my work for Gravity Mind and for some other projects. So I can like unplug fully. So being distracted by social media really triggers me. And I'm
Mm.
still learning. So if anybody have tips on controlling that, yeah, I can take some of those. And I just hope that as a society we find with the time some healthier ways of using that, or make it healthier somehow, because I know many people with this type of situation, especially people who have to do it related to work or being away from friends and family. Like, we live in the United States, but I'm from Belarus, so I need that connection, but sometimes it gets out of control. So that's one. I hope like not a lot of people have it, but I doubt it. And the second one is that with the level of knowledge and science and awareness of how little time left, I can't believe we still create and buy toxic products. I really don't understand that, because it's pretty widely known fact by now that like we have about 10 years or so to fix our ways, fix the ways we produce, but also consume and how we dispose. And it's incredibly short time if you think about the evolution of like time we needed to come up with ways we are doing things right now. And even with that level of again, the internet and the level of fast speed communication we have and collaboration that we can have, and the knowledge that is so accessible, it really triggers me that the change is very slow. And even what people have in power of their choice, for example, purchasing power or disposing power, like how you can compost or find ways to compost or recycle, or how you can choose to buy from more responsible brands, at least not to buy from knownly toxic and very irresponsible brands. That really triggers me. And also from the government, that knowing that in 10 years they will have to deal with a lot of things and they will be kind of tense. The change is way, way, way too slow. And even living in California, in Los Angeles, it's kind of shocking, like even that administrative level, how the city approaches this, how to state approaches this, how country approaches this, and the world. So those are two things that are on my mind quite often. So I, of course, start with myself. So trying to handle both the discipline of using technology and also figuring out my own responsible choices and making and buying too.
Those are both very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Very powerful. And I hope that when people hear that, they understand what you mean by that. And at the end of the day, we're all responsible for ourselves, but what we do with that responsibility has such an impact on the rest of the world, because at the end of the day, we're all one. We're all a part of this same universe, So thank you for sharing that. Okay, and the last question, one of my favorite questions, is what is something you're most grateful for?
I think in the big picture, I'm the most grateful for experiencing love, because I think in the end of a day or in the end of life, that it's one of the core things we all at least want to experience, we know it or not, and either lack or excess of it influences our behavior, our character, our choices, and our opinions even, and our belief system. So I'm very grateful that I do experience love, that I can give and receive love, and obviously still learning because I'm young myself. But I think it's one of the things that I wish upon everyone that not to be distracted, not to confuse, and to know how it feels like to give that unconditionally without expecting anything, but also to be able to receive it. I think there is art in that, but it makes life by far more rich and enjoyable and resilient.
You are a very powerful being. I feel that through your responses. I'm very happy we connected. And just to wrap this up, because I know you got to go, I want to make sure that we offer an opportunity for people to understand the best ways to keep in touch with Gravity Mind, and also to, if they feel compelled to purchase their own products through Gravity Mind. And let's keep in mind, you can use the code JOSH15 to get a discount on anything at Gravity Mind. But what are the best ways for people to keep in touch?
So I think for the easiest way is Instagram. We are very active on it, and it's gravity.mind.boards. So if you have questions, want to connect, or want to learn more, or see how to practice, or any tips, so a lot of those things are happening on there. So that's the fastest way and easiest way to connect. And even if you're not sure, you want to say something, you can just watch and then eventually maybe connect and talk. And another one is our website, gravity/mind.com, and it has our email if you prefer that way. It's hello@gravity/mind.com. So
and I think that's gravity-mind.com, just so
yes.
To make sure we get people to the right place. So yeah, gravity-mind.com, and then I'm sure you can find everything you need to know. Obviously, we shared a lot of the website on this call, on this interview. But if you aren't watching this on YouTube, and you're just listening, refer to the show notes, and I'll try to list as much as I can there. And again, take advantage of the discount. It's going to good purposes, and this is a small family business that is doing really amazing things. So I want to thank you, Anastasia and Dimitri, although he's not here. I'm sure he's here in spirit. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope that we can get the word out, and stay tuned for some cool content that I'm going to start posting around my boards and my mat.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It's so wonderful to connect with you, and thank you for choosing to practice on nail boards and connecting with us and sharing on your podcast about amazing tools and holistic approach to body, mind, and energy, how we can elevate all of them. And I love how you're sharing your personal story, and I think it's very empowering to have example like you, and being so welcoming and connecting many different people and tools. So I'm so glad to get to know you, and I hope we can keep in touch and maybe meet sometime as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is Josh signing out from Simply Walk the Talk. Again, thank you for your time. Whether you're listening or you're watching, please feel free to share if you feel compelled to. And yeah, until next time, peace.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seat belts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen. Better come give us a minute or two. Open the box up, we giving you tools. Giving your engine the fuel that it needs. Breathing into it, it's autoimmune. Make a connection, we're stronger in two. Making us one of a kind of a few. Work on the mind, but show me your moves. If you do what you say, you know what to do. Yeah.
Simply walk the talk.